such as founders, CEOs, CMOs, and investors. Some of the key areas of Marketing Conclave 2021 include reaching out to new markets in a post-pandemic era, bringing to light the latest tools and trends in marketing, highlighting how technology goes hand in hand with marketing in these times, broadening customer base, which is no longer restricted to only urban or local, and realigning marketing strategies to match with customer expectations. Before we kick in with this session, I would like to quickly take this opportunity to thank our partners, our cloud communication partner Root Mobile, our session partner IAB Tech Lab in partnership with PubMatic, our gold partner LogicServe Digital, our sessions partner Agraya, our bronze partner Bobble AI, and our knowledge partner Kantar. With that, I would like to introduce to you our next session, which is a very special fireside chat on the topic automation role in omnichannel marketing beyond opens and clicks. And this session is particularly partnered by Root Mobile. For the same, I would like to welcome our esteemed panelists. First up, our moderator, Mr. John Owen, Chief Executive Officer, Europe and America, Root Mobile. We welcome you, John.
Thank you.
Along with our esteemed panelists, Mr. Ravi Santhanam, CMO, Head Corporate Communications, Head-Liability Products and Managed Programs, Hdfc Bank. We welcome you, Ravi. I would now request John to please
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, welcome to everybody and thank you for joining us. For those that don't know, Root Mobile, you may not know, but you've probably received a message from us as we're validating your identity for banks like HDFC or through Microsoft or Facebook or Google. And it's about how technology is starting to converge. So today, that's where Root Mobile are proud sponsors, and I'm really delighted to be talking to Ravi about what omnichannel means and automation in that format. So Ravi, I'm really pleased to be talking to you, not just from an HDFC perspective, because everybody will know them and they're probably customers of yours, but also from your Vodafone and your marketing background. So before we sort of set the scene, could you just give me your definition of what you think omnichannel is and where it's going to?
The way I look at John of omnichannel is, as a human being, if you're going to talk to an individual person, the next time when you talk to the same person, you always have the context of what you talked last time being continued. You never start that point of time first. So if that is the way we normally behave as human beings, why is it that as a marketeer, when you're talking to the consumer, you will do it in fit and starts? You have to always remember that you had a conversation with the customer, and irrespective of where you meet that customer again, in whichever channel, you need to remember the previous conversation. That's why I strongly believe marketing is the way to go forward.
I think there's a challenge with maybe some of the technology, and
as
we become more dependent on technology, this could be a challenge. But before we were talking about channel shift as marketeers, now we're talking about omnichannel. Can you just help the audience with those two definitions in your as you define them? And hopefully we've given the buffering an opportunity to catch up.
Okay. Sorry about the network. I don't know where is it from. See, for me, channel shift is all about consumer behavior changing in line with the times. And if you remember, people would have read a newspaper, they would have moved to the radio, they would have moved to the TVs, they would have moved to the print screens. And then now today they are moving into their mobiles. And inside the mobiles, you have a plethora of social media, search, and multiple options in which the consumers are engaging with content. This, in my view, is the channel shift, which all of us are aware of. And this is a very seamless movement. And there is a lot of movement which is moving in a zigzag direction. You can't expect it to be a linear movement. The same customer will today be in one, tomorrow will be in another, in the next second might be in a third channel, and that's how it happens. So this is the channel shift which we see, and this is there to stay. It will only go further more with more and more variables coming and other things happening. This technology is going to be the reason why channel shift will happen. And people are going to find their own comfort zones in terms of where they see what content they want to see, how they want to consume that content. That's going to happen. And there is no looking back or anything on that side. It will further complicate matters for us as marketeers. The second thing which you asked, John, if you can get me again, I missed you on the question.
Yeah, the second. So one was channel shift, and then it's about, okay, what does omni-channel mean to a bank like HDFC, which has obviously got a massive brand recognition, but you're dealing with corporate customers, you're dealing with high net worth individuals, you're dealing with everybody, every strata of society. And we all consume information in different ways. We've all got different platforms. What does omnichannel mean for you? And where do you think HDFC are on this continuum?
If I have to look at omnichannel for HDFC Bank, as we see it, our consumers, as the normal consumer behavior is, are also consuming the banking services across multiple channels. There is a physical channel in terms of branch and the ATMs. There is a tele channel in terms of an inbound or an outbound call which is happening. And then there are these digital channels. And even within digital channels, you have a plethora of channels, like, for example, an SMS or a WhatsApp or an email on which they can do some transactions. They also have the mobile website as well as the desktop website. And then you also have many of these mobile banking apps and multiple apps on which they engage with us. And we also engage with them on a paid medium, which is also across the whole world wide world. For us, omnichannel means irrespective of where the consumer wants to engage with us or where we want to engage with that customer, it's all about having the understanding of what the consumer has done as of this point, and then taking the next step with the customer in the channel in which they are engaging with us. And that's, I think, is the journey that we are on to. In terms of maturity, if I have to put myself in a scale of 1 to 100, I will say I'm around 40, in spite of the fact that we are very good at what we do. But I think there is a huge amount of move forward that we all need to do, because what we have done so far and how we have done it is something which is good as a foundation, but we need to build on this foundation, because physical channels, digital channels, and phygital channels, and the reach out that we do across multiple channels, the ability to bring all of them together at one place again and keeping that as the context memory so that the next conversation can happen with this memory back with the consumer. That's, in my view, a journey. And we are at 40% level is what I will say.
Yeah, well, I share your optimism, and I also share your assessment. I think we're in the foothills of this digital transformation, because it's about supporting the consumer with information, consistency, transparency, where I, without putting age on this, with marketing in a broad form. And we all 50% of marketing was effective. We just didn't know which 50% it was. So I'd be interested in how you feel this sort of dynamics shift, where instead of one-way communication in a broadcast, this is now interactive, it's real time, and the power is with the consumer, not with the bank, the telecoms, the technology provider. How do you feel that's changing within a bank culturally?
Oh, it's a very nice question that you asked, John, because I'm just recollecting an instance. I was in the midst of 18 to 21-year-old in a college before the pandemic. It was a session with the students. And before the session started, I obviously did not know that I'm going to be the speaker. So I just chatted up with some of these students and said, what do you think should be done by a marketeer? And one of the boys brilliantly said, don't talk to me, talk with me. And that stuck with me for a long period of time. And the first thing they said is, we use the device to communicate with each other. It's never a one way, because most of the things that all these youngsters are doing is doing a communication with each other. And we as marketeers are trying to do communication to them and not with them. And this power is a brilliant power, which I don't think we had it earlier. Earlier, we used to think sitting in our rooms that we will create a positioning statement, we will put a major advertisement, and the brand is built by people like us. And today we have all realized, and luckily that we have been able to realize it pretty quickly, is the brand is not built by us. The brand is being built by the consumers, and they are going to talk about the brand in social media. If you're going to make a mistake, they're going to necessarily you take your pants off on those areas. So the brand is being built by them. And as a marketer, what we see is the power of this medium is giving us enough opportunities to engage with these customers and give them an opportunity to see what we are attempting to do, show them the experience, make them feel that experience, and then talk about the brand on their own, wherever they are talking about the brand, so that we get the power of what we are doing visible to all our consumers, and then that brings us the brand value and then the business. So the interactivity is something which it took some time for a person like me to accept and change. But I think the youngsters who are joining the team, they're much more comfortable with this interaction because they are immediately thinking of saying, what is the response to the communication that we have done?
So, I mean, you open up a really good line of questioning, which is about generations and how we as generations use technology, how we interact with you as a bank. And generationally, we'll have different preferences. And I think from a Route Mobile perspective, our vision as a CPaaS company is we don't care what platform you're on, you've got to be able to move seamlessly across. So you may start on SMS, you may go to WhatsApp, you may go to voice, you may go to video, whatever, you may go to email. And you, as you said, there's got to be one version of that relationship between the consumer and the bank. So it's probably easier to tap into the younger generation who, if they're anything like my children, don't talk to anybody, but they will text them every day of the week. But how do you become that multi-channel for a broad customer base? Because your customers are, very young and very old and very smart and we all need banking.
John, I was quite surprised when we actually implemented this omnichannel way. And some of the best, for youngsters, in my view, they said this is the way you should be doing. If you're not doing it, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas for the older generation, it was a pleasant surprise for them. So they were very actually happy when they walk into a branch, they're able to see the people who, whatever they have called up in the call center, that's visible to the branch, and what is the next step to be taken, it's visible at the branch level. They are pleasantly surprised because that's the experience they are having across the spectrum, not only with the bank per se, but across multiple companies, that they have to repeat the same thing every time when they call up a customer care. So for us, when we implemented, we got a lot of kudos from most of the senior people only, because they did not expect us to do it, whereas the youngsters very clearly said, this is how you should be doing, as simple as that.
Yeah, and if you don't do this, we are not going to be a customer of yours, so you're going to miss a whole generation of customers.
Exactly.
Okay, so
yeah,
for our audience, because HDFC Bank has been looking at this, it's obviously got lots of customers. Vodafone, your last company, lots of customers, consumer brands. What should we, as sort of small, medium enterprises or companies starting on this omni-channel, particularly from a marketing perspective, what advice would, because you can't just jump into omni-channel. I'm assuming there's an evolution and there's some logical learning that we'd all like to benefit from your learning, so we don't repeat the errors that you made as an individual professionally and as a bank or a telecoms company. What would you share as best practice?
The first thing is to clearly define a use case which immediately gives you a good amount of success in your business. I think that's a first base to start with. And once you have that kind of a use case, I think you have to do a lot of groundwork in terms of collecting the data together. Because invariably, the way many of us are set up over a period of time, we might be working with multiple vendors, we might be working with multiple databases. So it's all about getting the data together, getting most of the kind of stuff that we have done in independent channels together for a single use case.
Yeah.
And deploy that use case, show early success. And this kind of celebration of this early success in terms of actually what it does for the consumer as well as what it does for the brand, it will allow a lot more people to actually come and join the bandwagon and help us define the next steps going forward. So I'm a big fan of defining use cases. I'm a big fan of putting things together first with a very clear mandate of what is the outcome that we are expecting, and be at it till you get there. And once you have tasted success, John, in my view, I think more and more people just follow on the bandwagon and say, yeah, this is actually working. So then the number of use cases that you can do continuously keeps improving. So defining a clear use case, putting the data together, starting off small, and then being at it with a measurable outcome at the end of it, I think that's the simple steps I'll suggest.
Well, we have a phrase certainly in the UK, which is success has many fathers, failure is an orphan. And I think that's for any transformation, that is very good guidance, because the bit that really interests me from a business perspective is, how do you look at budgeting? Because if we don't put the money there in the investment, we can have the greatest vision in the world. We can't make those a reality. So has it changed the way you you financially plan as an organization? And is that something that you can share with the audience, which is, as marketeers, we can get access to more people, we can have an interactive relationship with them, we can get feedback real time. But it's night and day different to how we've built our organizations, how we've funded them. How do you break through that cycle of, yes, it's very nice, but build it and they will come, which is massive risk and doesn't give you the quick wins that you talked about. So how did you manage to finance this as a change program?
Very good question, John. I think as we were talking earlier, the ability to now engage with the customer, and with digital being prevalent all over the place, many of the journeys can actually be fulfilled digitally. Even if you're a CPG customer, you can create a lead and send it to another place to get the job done. And many of these people also have their own online stores. So earlier, when marketers were actually building in traffic, what is this traffic actually leading to as a sale was, in my view, not measurable very clearly.
Right.
Whereas nowadays, with the digital journeys in place, today I'm a revenue marketer, I call myself. My team is all about revenue marketing. We have a very clear visibility of the leads that we are generating. And we also have a very clear visibility of how many of these leads have actually got converted, either into an account opening or for a personal loan disbursements or for a credit card being sold digitally online. Now, with all these things in place, it becomes extremely easy when you put your neck on the line and say, hey, here it is. I will bring you so much of fresh sale for you this month. Yes, you might want to be really skeptical. Then if you go back in history, and not history meaning like 20 years back, and just 2 years back or 5 years back, the way the consumers are consuming every service has moved to digital. Today, everybody books a flight. And if I have to say a flight ticket to my daughter, she actually takes the phone and does. And at her age, when somebody told me a flight ticket, I have to look for an agent. I'll have to find an agent, go to the shop, sit in front of them. Now, that's not the way these people do it. If that has happened, in my view, most of the other services, it is a supply constrained economy. It's not a demand constrained economy. You provide it, I think consumers will lap it up in terms of digital fulfillment, digital origination, digital servicing, digital fulfillment. And that's the ask of the consumers also very clearly. All our NPS surveys tell us mostly we want to do everything digitally. So that's the most important thing. So that availability of that thing, of ability to actually into the organization has actually made marketing about revenue generation and not just about brand. Once you have that outlook and once you have put that number in front of the CFO, I don't see a problem with funding. Because in my view, setting up a physical channel takes a hell of a lot of a time and hell of a lot of a money compared to that what we are going to ask for in these kind of omnichannel marketing and the technology infrastructure that need to be put in place in terms of marketing technology is relatively extremely small amount of money. So people are willing to take that bet provided we actually show the revenue at the end of the day.
I mean, I'd certainly agree with you. We're in a demand-driven market because if you just look at our business, the amount of messages that you are getting as a consumer, just go last year to this year, and we're just about to go into sort of Diwali and Thanksgiving and the Christmas, New Year period. And you just look at every part of your life, you're getting messages, and your platform of choice is probably a smartphone. So I think for us as general business people, if we're dealing with consumers, particularly, the device of choice is that smartphone. Now, the challenge we've got is not everybody has preferences. It could be, I want to go on, an SMS, or I want Google's RCS, which is a richer SMS, or WhatsApp, or Apple, or whatever. You've got to become sort of agnostic to technology. How do you manage that as a marketeer?
That's the power of data that we have, John, and we have invested in cloud-based analytics in terms of understanding consumer preferences. We actually measure every response of our customers channel. So what we have is a very clearly big data science team. I have almost 50 data scientists working for me in my marketing team. And what do these data scientists do? They have the latest cloud-based analytics setup available. They look at each of the response from the customers and they start actually making what we call as the preference model. What is the channel that the consumer prefers? What is the time of the day that the consumer prefers? What is the language? And being also a physical channel and a telecalling channel, people actually choose languages, in which language they want to talk to the agent. When they come to the branch also, they actually speak in their local tongue, or whether they want to speak in English, we come to know, we capture that. Bringing all this information together, we are actually in a position to reach the customer in their most preferred channel, and we have priority of the channels available. And we have very clearly earmarked, these are customers will not disturb by email at all. Because we have been sending emails, they read the transaction emails, they don't read the promotional emails. It's visible. They don't click on it. We get the feedback. So why do we want to actually go back to them on an email? They're very good on WhatsApp. They engage with us in WhatsApp. So the whole thing is all about you become channel agnostic, but at the same time, understand what each channel can do. So we never use WhatsApp, for example, for any broadcasting message. SMS, we will have a link, but WhatsApp, it's actually a conversation. Most of the time, as individual consumers, you see a WhatsApp, you just don't consume the information and sit quiet. You actually respond. So in WhatsApp, whatever communication we do, we use it only for remarketing communication. We never use it for a marketing communication because we do not want to use that for that. So we have made our own buckets, basis consumer understanding, basis what people do in each one of those kind of mediums which they use, the devices which they use, the language which they use. And that's why I said I'm at 40 out of 100, because I think we do have a lot to go in terms of changing into a conversation in WhatsApp, for example. How do I make every conversation, every communication, a conversational element in WhatsApp, in my voice bots? How do I make sure that the language has empathy? If there is a service request, how do I make sure that it is not a robotic one? How do I bring in empathy there? So these are the questions and challenges that we keep pushing ourselves, because if you call me at the call center and say, I lost my card, the way I will speak to you is going to be very different. And if you call me and say, hey, what is the offer for me? That's a very different empathy regulations that is required. But in the voice bot, how do you make sure that the communication, if somebody says, I've lost my card. Oh, I'm sorry about it. How can I help you? Quickly, you can call this number. There's a toll-free number. You can call somebody, block it. Or if you're comfortable with the digital means, click here, we can block it. If you don't remember your card number, how many of us remember our credit card numbers? You might remember the last 4 digits. So you might say, I have a digital process, but you have to give me the card number. You may not have it. If you don't remember your credit card number, if you want to still block. So that's the thinking that we all need to do as marketeers, as business people, on how each one of these mediums has to be used for what they are extremely good at. A broadcasting messenger for a New Year's sale, SMS can never be beaten. Right? Because at the end of the day, I can send 2 crore SMSs in a matter of maybe 10 minutes. So if you want to have a flash sale, if you want to have any kind of an event-led one, you might want to use SMS. You don't want to use email because people do not read emails as much as they do SMS. So how do we understand all this stuff from the practitioners in the industry, from the vendors like you who have actually seen it much across multiple companies, and what is it that you get as feedback, and how is it that we can learn from all of these practices across the industry, and how do we use them? So it's a great opportunity for all of us to be extremely relevant to what we talk with our customers.
So you bring up 2 points that I think are really relevant. One is collaboration with industry, with channels, with brands, with consumers, about how do we satisfy that demand for mobility, security, personalization, and I think to your point, relevance. And it's the relevance that is that in empathy or tone or what's the context of, do I need, if I'm not responding, don't send me something. So that's all sort of really important about collaboration and, as you say, with technology. If I look at the ethical side, which I'd really take, I think the audience would benefit from your perspective, because as a bank, you know more about us than probably we know about ourselves. And as you say, you've now got 40 or 50 data scientists. That's a massive responsibility. How can we be assured as consumers that you're using that so we get a better service, not that we feel exploited? Have you sort of got any, because we do move the boundaries a little bit on ethical behavior.
It's a very good question. And privacy is at the heart of what we do as a bank. And even in the physical channels, for example, anybody who actually logs in to our system to see what our customers' transactions or balances, it's getting logged in. And if you're not the authorized person to actually log into a customer system, it immediately gets a flash and you will get notice about what is happening. Now, using the same kind of an extension way we do marketing, all my data scientists are not allowed to see individual customer data. That's number one point. They all look at it from the strict, PII strict data only. So what we do is we look at the whole data to identify trends. Then we also have what is called as a personalization engine, which is within our ecosystem, which is within the firewalls, where after you do everything on an anonymized basis, this personalization engine identifies the code and then picks up the customer details that we are not going to show it to outsiders within this ecosystem itself, and just attaches, say, hey, John, that's a name. So that is available only in the PI database, which nobody has access to, because we have a code which matches these two. So the code is A, pick up the name from the master A. So automatically we personalize basis the necessary requirements at that time and do. And personalization, we do not allow in non-logged in sections. For example, we have taken a very conscious call, non-logged in sections, no personalization will be done. Only in logged in sections, personalization will be done. We will never disclose your name in a public website. We will never show you a pre-approved limits in your public website. We will only say, hey, you are eligible up to X. And that X will be very different for each one of us. And it is not going to be very specific for anybody. So that's the kind of structure that we have put in place. And we have enough audits that we continuously keep doing in terms of what kind of attacks can happen on our ecosystem. And we have saw the best of the companies and vendors working with us to make sure that our data is actually very secure and very safe. And it is also the access controls that we have on our data is very, very, very high.
So, I mean, we're coming to the end of the 30-minute discussion, but I mean, we've had a whistle-stop tour around where we are on the journey. We're 40 years into a 100-year journey. We've only just scratched the surface of what, from a marketeer perspective, the relationships, the loyalty we can build. And you've reassured us that the information is treated with absolute integrity and respect. So we are getting a service, not being exploited. So thank you very much for sharing that. I think let's just wrap up. Any final comments, Ravi, from your perspective, for the audience that you'd like to sort of share and leave them with?
The one perspective that I'll leave with this is all a journey. And I think one should not be expecting a pot of gold at the end of every month. We should be very clear that what is the pot of gold that we are searching for and that we are going to get there. But it's about a journey, and being at it is more important. And technology changes, newer elements keep coming in, newer ways of reaching to customers keep coming in. We need to be nimble, and we need to have agility in the organization to leverage what the market and the technology can offer for us.
Good, thank you. That's a lovely comment to end on. Thank you very much for your time. Please keep serving us with great products and services as HDFC Bank. I'm also a client of yours, although I'm based in London. And from a Route Mobile perspective, I think Ravi explained it really well. There is massive insatiable demand for messaging and intelligent messaging because it gives us better services, better information, better knowledge as consumers. And our job is to serve that market and that opportunity on a global basis. So thank you. I hope you found this web chat helpful, inspiring from somebody like Ravi. It can be done. We've all got to get those use cases and just success breeds success. I wish you all well, and please do stay safe.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Ravi. Thank you so much. This was truly a very informative and a very inspiring session. I would request everybody to please join back in the next couple of minutes for our next session. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.